I'm glad you're here. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could all stand, please. I've asked Frank Fry to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, Gabriel, will you give us a roll call, please?
John Winchester. Present. John Sansel. Melissa Brown Dominguez. Kelly Lee already reported she would be absent. Charlene Robinson.
Here.
Lucretia Free.
Present.
Tom Beresny.
Present.
Frank Santa Cruz. Ed Berber.
Present.
John Bernal.
Here.
Frank Fry.
Here.
Bill Schlesinger.
He's in Laos. No connection.
We do have 7 present.
Very good. We have a quorum. We'll proceed with the agenda. First action item is review approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments on the summary of the last meeting? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the minutes pass. We're going to move on to staff updates. I'm going to turn to Director Skinner.
I'll go ahead and stand up here. Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Skinner, the Director of Transportation. And as has become routine, we'd like to announce some staff changes that we have. The first is that we've added a new deputy director. So Joseph Godoy, who's sitting back here, is joining our department. Some of you may be familiar with him already. He's worked for the Development Services Department at the county for a number of years, with his last position being the Deputy Director in Development Services. So he brings a lot of great knowledge of our engineering standards, development patterns, relationships with the stakeholders we deal with most in our department. So we're excited to have him. And then I'm going to transition to a departure that we're all it's going to be a big change to our department, but Annabelle Valenzuela, who all of you know quite well from her involvement with PTAC, will be retiring in January. So this is her last meeting. For those of you, which I think are probably few, we all know Annabelle very well. She's been with the department for 30 years, and the 1997 bond program, the RTA program, all of those had huge corridor projects. And Annabelle was integral organizing all of the public relations relating to that, citizens advisory committees, and just countless information that went to newspapers and to the public media, and really has done an exceptional job for the department, being a face and internally organizing a lot of parties for staff. I'll be quite honest, she's kind of taken the lead in making sure that we have good staff appreciation. So I want to thank Annabelle for, decades of amazing service to the public. And then I know our chair, Verberg, would like to come up and say a few more words.
Well, Annabelle, we're going to miss you. Could you come up here, please? So, first off, your boss has a presentation for you.
So, I'll come over here. We have a certificate signed by all the members of the Transportation Advisory Committee that are here, really recognizing the appreciation that I know you do a lot of one-on-one work, bringing all the new members up to speed on materials we've covered, and then just dealing with whatever questions may arise, meeting to meeting, in between meetings. So, a certificate of appreciation. Thank you.
We decided to go all out, though. We have a plaque here for you to recognize your service. You know, I've been on this committee for 4 years. The committee's been going, what, about 6 years? Annabelle is integral to getting done what we do. She's behind-the-scenes person that coordinates things for us and makes sure everything gets done. Of course, the director does a lot, no doubt about it, but she really, in the background, makes sure everything happens smoothly and very professionally. So this plaque comes from the chair and the committee members. Now, I'm going to read it. It's from the committee. In recognition of over 30 years, I don't know if it's a day over or if it's you're right on 30, but that's what it reads.
29.95.
Okay. We're not going to change this. We're giving you more credit. Of public service and outstanding support for the Transportation Advisory Committee, we commend Annabelle Valenzuela for her diligence, expertise, and contributions to ensure the success of the mission of the committee. Congratulations. We appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, can I add something?
Chair Verber. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All committee members to have an opportunity to say things. So
I'll
John
defer to
Burnell-
Lucretia. I heard Lucretia
Okay,
wants to talk.
You go ahead first.
Who are you calling on, Chair Verberg? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You're on.
Oh, okay. Annabelle, it has been such a pleasure working with you. I say this as both a past chair of this body as well as a member. Your attitude has always been positive and focused on getting the job done, not the many obstacles that you and I have faced together and this committee has faced as a group together. And you've not only been service to this group, but also to the citizens of Pima County. And I just wish you the best on this next phase of your journey, my friend. We will miss you.
Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the distinct privilege of having hired Annabelle to work for Pima County. And it was in a temporary position. And as soon as I hired her, 3 months later, I left. And so she thought I was just throwing her to the wolves, I think. But as you can tell, she has done extremely well in her career with the county. In fact, I was fortunate enough to come back in 2001 and have the benefit of her continued good service when I was working again for Pima County. So, Annabelle, I can't thank you enough, and so proud of you for all that you've accomplished in the department. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd like to say a few.
Okay, Frank, go ahead.
So unfortunately, I was thinking this was more of a roast. Everybody's being nice.
Go for it.
So all that stuff Carol gave me, we'll put to the side. But no, you're one of the first people I met, moved here in '97, started working on bond projects. And I relate what you go through on a day-to-day basis, like when our cell phone goes out and we have to call IT service and hear the story and you take the complaints and all that good stuff. Every public meeting you've been to, or that I've been to with you, you've shown up with your great smile, great attitude. You can never tell that you'd had a bad day. Maybe, I'm assuming somewhere along the way you did, but always that professional effort. And most of all, we have those meetings. A lot of the things we're telling the public that's going to change with the roadway. Medians coming in, you can't make left turns, or back in the days when we had sound walls, and then those kind of got taken away. We had a project that had sound walls on the north half of the project, and the south phase didn't get them. And handing off those not so quite happy public attendees at the meetings, you never yelled at me once for that, so I appreciate it. Thank you and good luck.
John? Other comments?
Long time. outside of this, and I've known you for a long time outside of this body, and I just wanted to say for the record that managing volunteers is not easy, and you've served a lot of us in your capacity. I appreciate your patience, and echoing, you've always just been so cheerful, and you've been a great servant to the people of Pima County in your capacity, so thank you.
Charlene?
So our relationship spans pretty much outside of this community, this committee, and it's been over 20 years.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the committee have any comments? All right, well, again, just to reflect, we all appreciate you very much. We wish you a happy retirement. We know you're doing some good things in retirement. So, thank you for being a part of our efforts. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. It's been a great pleasure serving Pima County and the Pima County Transportation Advisory Committee. In my capacity here at Pima County, I've had the opportunity to work with the public in different communities, and so it's been a great pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Bernal, for seeing potential in me when I walked into the door and started in as the receptionist, and I really grew into caring about transportation infrastructure and professional development, and Pima County was very good in allowing me to grow. So thank you, Catherine, for being part of our successes as well, and I wish you guys all luck as we move forward and advocate for additional projects. This community is ready for it, so I will not be a stranger. It's not a full goodbye. It's just, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Sounds like she might even be in a call to the audience. That would be nice. Okay, onward. Future county sources of funding. We had asked previous committee member to speak to us about that regards our white paper that addresses several funding options for the future related to transportation. And Curtis, who was a member here when I first started with the committee, had put together a nice one-pager, and he had some second thoughts. I'm going to read his note. After careful consideration, I'm thinking that it's best to postpone my presentation/discussion with PTAC until I've had an opportunity to do a bit more research and coordinate a few concepts with staff. This should better focus the information I present, resulting in more meaningful discussion and use of the committee's time. So he's available for a future meeting. He had given us a little handout, but I think he's paused a little bit, so we'll look forward to hearing from him in a future meeting. Anyway, so that gets back to the white paper that was produced through the committee's efforts and, largely by staff, both the transportation office as well as the finance office that's been put together here. And I did want to comment on one of the items that we had brought up before that. But for now, I think we want to hear from the county in terms of, and we'll get back to that. We had asked that they tell us if you had $25 million per year for the next 5 years, what would you do with it? If you had $50 million for the next 5 years per year, what would you do with it? I could see folks out there nodding. There's a lot of need out there in terms of our transportation structure. We've made a huge advance, but what would we do if we had a little bit more yearly? So, you want to go ahead and share with us what you've come up with?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Paul Casertano. I'm a deputy director under Catherine, and so I've kind of led the effort to pull together the white papers and to lay out a couple scenarios that we've contemplated within the department of how we might spend $25 million extra funding or $50 million scenario. So I'll walk you through that. I also did have the opportunity to speak with Curtis yesterday. He explained his approach. We didn't really see anything that was terribly concerning. Hopefully we haven't scared him off. He's put a lot of good thought and energy into this, and so I look forward to incorporating his thoughts into our process as we move forward. If staff could pull up the slides, I think that would be super helpful, and then I'll kind of walk you through our scenarios. So we've built quite a bit of flexibility into our scenarios, and we would expect a good deal of fluctuation from year to year, depending on the status of some of the capital projects and whether or not we needed to advance a large amount of funding for construction activities, what the pavement preservation ongoing work looks like beyond what we have scheduled through 2031. And so that's kind of the basis on which we've built our scenarios. Go ahead to the next slide, if you would. So we've built our scenarios around different categories that you see on the slides, and we've kind of divided them up, and they kind of follow in these categories. So pavement preservation has certainly become a forefront activity for the department. We anticipate that to continue. Dependent upon what kind of HERF revenues and general fund contributions we see and the completion of the current pavement preservation program, that would kind of dictate the investment scenario of what the $25 million scenario investment would look like within pavement preservation. We could see that going all the way up to $15 million of the $25 million, just to make sure that we have everything in a good state of repair and that we're taking care of our assets, our pavement assets throughout the community. The next three there are kind of in a category of smaller scale project needs, and those are divided into general safety projects, bicycle pedestrian projects, which we call active transportation projects, and then intersection improvements. And those can vary from anything from, stop sign installation to geometry reconfiguration, all the way up to full reconstruction of an intersection, installation of traffic signals and things of that nature. So we know we have a lot of those types of needs throughout the community, and a lot of that is kind of deferred. So we're doing all right at this point in time, but we could see investments in each of those categories ranging from, nothing in one of those categories all the way up to $5 million in any of those categories, depending on what the needs were in any given year. Federal grant match is our next category. So we've had quite a bit of good fortune to be competitive in getting federal grant funds. And so we would see a good opportunity to set aside or have available some of the hypothetical $25 million where we could put that down as local match for federal grant funding and get larger sums of dollars so that we could move larger capital projects forward. That brings us to that large CIP or capital improvement program category. These are significant corridor projects largely, and so the amount on that goes up to $15 million in the $25 million scenario. Lastly, but certainly not least, is our ongoing maintenance and operations needs. We know that we have a lot of deferred needs in this category, ranging from potholes to vegetation management, small scale M&O type projects and things of that nature. So we would see, up to $5 million being invested in a $25 million scenario in any given year. Let's go ahead to the next slide, and then we'll walk you through. We kind of just scaled this up within the $50 million scenario. So you see larger amounts in pavement and the large-scale capital improvement program, a little bit more capacity in maintenance and operations, and then we bumped up the set of three smaller-scale project categories up to amount of about $7 million. So a lot of this does depend on what kind of fund type we're talking about, how prescriptive we might need to be with the fund type that we may be able to put to these types of use. We have several activities that are underway or launching soon that will help us better identify our transportation needs at the project level. These include preparation for RTA Next, development. We're deep into that. We've gone through several iterations of project identification at the large scale. We're now kind of diving into that smaller scale project identification for bike ped and other categories that RTA is considering as part of the full package compilation. We are also updating the transportation projects list associated with impact fees and the coverage area of those impact fees. So we'll look closely to make sure that there's a good connection between what we've put forward within the RTA Next context and what large scale or other medium scale type projects we see in development impact fee areas. We were successful getting federal grant funds to develop a countywide transportation safety action plan that's funded through US DOT Safe Streets for All funding. We're getting prepared to launch that. That's going to be an effort that will look at not only unincorporated Pima County facilities, but also the jurisdictions within Pima County will be involved in that effort. We're hoping to come out of that with a very robust list of safety needs at the project level, including other initiatives and whatnot. We are getting prepared to launch a transportation master plan that will help us identify transportation performance areas in need of attention and projects associated with improving that performance. So we expect that these efforts, along with ongoing activities associated with asset management and maintenance and operations priorities, will help guide our future investments for any transportation funding that is available. It's going to be an ongoing process. This is kind of the scenario in which we see the logical breakdown in terms of the department's needs, and we look forward to diving into this in a little bit more detail as we explore what funding opportunities might make sense for the county to pursue, what the results and reality of RTA Next might be will certainly impact this. So this is kind of the milestone that we're at this point in time, and a lot depends on what happens with RTA Next, and then what options are best suited for our pursuit at the county level. With that, I'm happy to take any questions or have some dialogue with you all.
Questions for anybody? Tom?
Yeah, Chair Berber. Yeah, so thanks, Paul, for the presentation. So on both of these slides, for the 25 million and the 50 million, the totals are more than 25 or 50 million. So how would we propose to balance these out or make a detriment to one or an increase of another to meet that 25 million?
Great question and a good observation. I'm going to let Catherine start off with that.
I knew that question was going to come. I was going to head it off before we jump to questions.
Oh, I should have asked you in the lunchroom.
Yeah. Anybody with a good eye for numbers knows those don't add up. And it's really due to a couple things. One, when we're talking about large-scale capital projects, which is one of the big numbers on there, those have about 2 years of much lower spending when you're in the design phase and 2 years of very high spending when you'd be in the construction phase. So it's, usually about 15% design and 85% construction. And so you're not going to have a consistent spend rate on those. So that's a big part of it. And it's similar token to some of the active transportation, intersection improvements, transportation safety. Those are all going to have a design phase before we can launch construction. Pavement preservation, we of course have our existing plan that we're working at, and so those funding levels change each year, and we're trying to build something that will be much more of a consistent program moving forward. And so we would anticipate that if we had additional funds in a year that we've already dedicated 40 million, say, and I'm just making up numbers because I don't have them in front of me, we might not need additional funding. But in the year that we have 25 million, we might be able to use more additional funding. So that's kind of some of the variability.
Okay. So second question. You mentioned a transportation master plan. Is this going to tie into the prosperity initiative that the Board of Supervisors approved last week?
It certainly will consider the Prosperity Initiative and the policy recommendations that are part of that. We'll certainly need to be looking at that. But more than anything, I think it's going to help us better identify what our transportation-specific needs are throughout the community, and establish for us an ongoing tracking mechanism and project development approach, so that we're not scrambling to pull together projects or take old projects off the shelf. We're regularly examining performance across the network. That's going to include, mobility and accessibility, safety, congestion, all transportation performance, so that we can look at a variety of different projects. Prosperity Initiative, transit provisions, and things of that nature will certainly be part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I have a follow-up observation/question to Tom, because I was doing a decision saying this is over the mark. I would suggest it might be a simple solution where you just might have a range, say from 5 to 7 million. So that way, if you added up the lower amounts, it would come to 25 or 50, but you can say we might need a little more. I don't think there's anything disingenuous about that. I think it says here's the bottom line, but we could use a little more. So that would be my suggestion. Any comments from the committee about that approach? So for example, the 15 million on the larger scale project might be 13 to 15 million or 12 to 15 million. So that if you took enough off, you could get to the total of 25 million. I was thinking at first, I was looking at the blue, thinking, well, okay, that adds up to 25. But anyway, optimist that I am. Anyway, there are different ways to get there without changing the value of what's needed going down the track.
So, Mr. Chair, we did have that discussion, and I kind of started there with discussion with Catherine and others in the department. Because of that variability that we discussed and Catherine kind of ran through, where we won't really see much, if any, investment in areas like capital improvement program, we decided to take an up-to approach rather than a bare minimum, which may be zero for some of these categories in many years, and could be as high as 15 million in one category alone. So that's kind of the basis upon which we decided to not lay out that low threshold, but rather just have an up-to amount, because we would anticipate that kind of variability throughout the program categories.
I can envision that very easily, having been involved in construction projects. But if we go to the board for any reason associated with revenue, and when we say 25 million or 50, we need something that's relatively definitive. So
certainly,
I would suggest that the range might get us there. It doesn't mean you won't have a need for more, just like Catherine was describing. You need 40 million this year, and you did the design the prior year that cost you 15% of the total requirement. So maybe you could take a second look at that, because if we go to the board with a proposal for revenue, we've got to be able to say the other end of the equation, and this is what you get from it.
We'd be happy to take a look at that. And,
Okay.
I think one of the big takeaways from seeing how big these numbers are is that there is an incredible need and ability for us to spend money on a whole host of transportation needs that exist on our network today. So, we could match new. How do I say this? I think that our challenge would be delivering. If we added 70 million, that's a lot of money. You have to manage the spending of it. So it's going to be more of a resource issue on the personnel side to spend that money, not an issue of finding really worthy and needed projects along our transportation network. But for sure, we'll look at that. As Paul said, that was the original, a minimum and a maximum, and we switched to the up to, but we can easily go back to something that's more of a range.
Very good. Not hearing any. Tom, does that work for you? Because you were having the same thought I had.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Be all right? Okay. Other committee members, can I see nods or something? That would be okay? All right. We're seeing enough committee members saying that would be a reasonable approach for us, and I would appreciate it if you could do that and maybe share that in the next meeting.
Very good.
Okay, thank you very much for all your effort to put this together. Not an easy job. And when you have to pick and choose, it's hard.
Thank
Lower
you.
levels and upper levels. Okay, let's go on with the discussion a little bit, and I'll just start it with, in the last meeting, I had brought out, well, sales tax, the county board members have the authority, if they voted all 5 in favor of having sales tax increase of 0.25% or whatever, they could do that, but we've not seen that historically. There's usually been 1 or 2 votes that say, no, we're not going to do that. So the question became, in my mind, similar to the city, can't the board with a majority put it on the ballot for the citizens to decide, sort of like the city did? And the city sold it, we're going to do local streets, and it passed by a good majority. Anyway, the answer to that question from legal staff, et cetera, is no. You can't do that. Pima County has different authorities than some of the other jurisdictions in the state. So unfortunately, we don't have that option if we were to reach out to the board and say, well, just put it on the ballot and let the voters decide. You know, we hear from folks in the audience like you that are here today about the great needs out there. We see it. We drive it too, so we understand. Anyway, I open it up for other comments. Unfortunately, that avenue is not available to us. So. Other comments related to the white paper. For those in the audience who have not been exposed to this, we've been looking at revenue options, and this white paper, which is available to you if you're interested, it goes into different approaches like property tax increase, sales tax increase, toll roads. It has several examples with the pros and cons and whether it's feasible legally and what are the constraints and so forth. So we've been exploring, knowing that we won't always have good bundles of money coming in every year, that we might like to do the roads. We've been exploring that and thinking about maybe sharing it with the board, depending upon where we go. Okay, other comments? Open it up. John, I can see you're thinking hard on this. I know you want to say something, so.
Not right now, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I meant the other John.
I would prefer to hear from Mr. Bernal. I guess in the meetings that we've had, I've said this multiple times that we do need to find an option. I'm born and raised here, and I can't remember, aside from Wildcat basketball, something more talked about in our community as infrastructure. And we've just not been able to get there. And I think I don't know if it's lack of will. I don't know what it is, Chair. I think we may very well be the only jurisdiction in the state that doesn't have a secondary source of revenue to subsidize HERF and VLT. And, you know, the folks in the department are doing a very strong job of managing the resources that we have. But we can't, as citizens, keep complaining about our infrastructure if we don't find a way to pay for it. That's where I'm mulling, Chair.
So you in the audience can see we're struggling too. You're not the only ones, and we drive these roads. So any other comments about our white paper? Okay, I'll ask the question. What option stands out to committee members of the, I think, 4 that we looked at? Which one or ones do we think have the most potential?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Tom.
Okay, so we're looking at this one-page thing that Curtis presented, right? Is that what you're referencing? Okay, so let me talk a minute for the people in unincorporated Pima County. those people in their property taxes pays the highest percentage into the general fund, okay? So that property tax is gonna be probably aligned to that same percentage. You got a lot of people in unincorporated Pima County that don't think their roads are brought up to the standard that they would wish. So increasing their property taxes to have their roads paved in front of their homes and along the arterials and collectors they drive, they're gonna be, I'll tell you what, they will be screaming bloody murder. They will. So to me, raising property taxes just for the roads, they're not seeing the benefit, I think, that they would like to see. You raise them even more, and there's gonna be a lot of angst in the community for that one.
Comments on the other options? The county, for those who may recall, actually did this for a year. When it got so bad, they actually raised the property tax for 1 year, and that went to roads. So that's why we were looking at it, is it's been done before, but it wasn't repeated by the supervisors. They can do that via a vote. Other comments on 3 other options? Sales tax, toll roads. For those who don't know, toll roads, if you read the paper, are exclusively under Arizona statute a private enterprise. County can't participate. City can't participate. It's against the law. But you can have a private party come in and build a road, and they can charge the tolls to pay for the road. That makes it harder to have a toll road, but those are the sort of things we found out in this paper. So that's probably at the margin, but you know, if you've been driving the other states like I did this summer, there are a lot of toll roads out there, and it gets people there pretty quickly in some cases. If you drive the back toll roads, it takes you much longer. But anyway, comments on the other options? Sales tax, and what was the other one? Should know off the top of my head. Oh yes, impact fees. Comments on impact fees or sales tax?
Chair, I think sales tax is the most viable. To the previous point, sales tax wide higher opportunity for higher return on a tax rate than the property tax, although the property tax is more stable. I have a lot of questions regarding the impact fees, and that's primarily related to good governance. If the community needs something, the community needs to pay for it and not charge private businesses to provide those services. So I tend to be not opposed completely, but skeptical of using impact fees to fund the obligations, the general obligations of our local government. I am of the options that we've had presented to us, and I think I was probably partial to it to begin with, but the sales tax I think is the most viable option for us.
Yeah. Other comments? Yes. Frank, I can see you want to comment.
No, and like everything else, I wonder if it's a compromise. You know, most of the residents don't want to hear higher sales tax because they're going to pay that on a daily basis, understanding that it's the roads that we use on a daily basis. I honestly am not in finance. I'm a consultant roadway engineer, so I don't know where our impact fees stand relative to a Casa Grande or Maricopa County. Is that something that maybe we could do a little bit of both? I don't want to shut out new businesses coming to our community for those reasons, but if some of that onus can be put on them, I know I've designed several roads that were the benefit of impact fees. They were very successful. They improved pedestrian improvements between schools. They added capacity to the roadways and other safety improvements. So it's a good source. But again, I agree with John, there's a concern there. So is there a compromise? And maybe, I don't know if this is the place to ask, or if we could look into how our impact fees stack up to other parts of Arizona. Is that something like our gas tax is still historically low to this day, that should be bumped up? And that's,
You nodding,
I don't know anything about.
okay. Others? Charlene, I can see you nodding also. So,
I concur with John.
okay.
Yes.
So you think sales tax has the most potential? John, at the other end of the table, you've been listening to all this. We need your thoughts.
I do have something to add.
Okay.
And I'm going back to Paul's presentation. I think the fact that a successful RTA Next is going to continue a half-cent sales tax, that in and of itself might just take that option off the table for the rest of us, the rest of the jurisdictions is what I mean. I'd be very surprised if the community would support both the RTA Next sales tax and a county sales tax on top of that, of whatever magnitude. So I think that's just one thought. The other one is with respect to improvement districts, or rather impact fees. I think the challenge there is that every jurisdiction administers those individually. And so if you have a new development that you're suggesting has an impact to certain roads leading to it, once those hit some jurisdictional boundary, you're not spending any of that money on those portions of it. So one of the topics on Kurt Lewick's list is regional impact fees, and I think that would be an interesting option to explore going forward. But again, I still think the RTA Next determination is going to be key to whatever we come up with in the way of funding sources.
So hypothetically, if RTA Next does not get reauthorized, how do you view it in that scenario?
That's where I do think that opens the door for a lot of discussion about other sales tax approaches.
Yes, Tom?
Okay, so on the flip side, I talked about the property taxes, but then on a sales tax, are you going to just be taxing those purchases made outside the jurisdictions and within unincorporated Pima County? Are you going to increase the sales tax within the jurisdictions? And then, but since we only take care of the roads in unincorporated Pima County, property owners in places like Green Valley and Vale are going to complain about the property taxes going up, but then the people in Tucson or Sahuarita or Oro Valley are going to complain because now they're paying sales tax, but it's only going to go to unincorporated roads. So there's a
Yeah,
kind of a contradiction.
That is,
I
well,
mean,
that
how
is,
would that work?
That's kind of a tough one. I mean, we all go and buy things in the city of Tucson jurisdiction, we pay their sales tax, but we also use their roads. It's kind of a trade-off. And it is a problem in terms of how you earmark things, so. Good
John,
point.
Mr. Bernal might know it. With this recommendation, and this has happened in the past, hasn't the recommendation only been for a sales tax in unincorporated Pima County as opposed to all of the jurisdictions?
No, I don't believe, well, number one, any effort to impose a sales tax by the county has to have a unanimous vote of the board,
Sure.
and we've never been able to achieve that.
Sure.
So it's never happened. But I don't know that state law would allow us to impose a sales tax only for unincorporated Pima County. I'm not sure, I don't know.
Yeah, we'd have to ask the lawyers.
Our initial
Can we-
take is the same, John. We don't see that as an option at this point. Certainly, we can investigate it more, but it would be a sales tax across all of Pima County, all incorporated entities. So there would be a distribution
A share.
model of the
Yep.
collections and figuring out what projects in Oro Valley and Tucson and et cetera would need to be funded through that. So we can get creative with that for sure. And a lot of that would, we would have to figure out what that landscape would look like in terms of whether the jurisdictions would want to pursue their own city or town-wide sales tax for transportation or other purposes. So we'd have to kind of figure out how it all fit together.
Okay, good comments. I thank everybody in the committee for giving this thought, for looking through the paper.
Chair Berber?
Yes. I'm sorry, go
One
ahead.
of the other
Yes.
challenges that I think are faced by coming up with a solution here, and I know I'm not the first one to say this, but is that we've promised citizens in unincorporated Pima County that we would take care of their roads previously. Are you? And there's a issue of distrust that how funds are used, whether or not there's a belief that funds are there, but they're just not being used in this way to repair all the roads as indicated that they would have in the past. So I think that anything that requires the citizens for more taxes or the burden of responsibility on them is going to be viewed with skepticism, because we've been down this road, they have been down this road before. And it's hard to come up with some kind of a solution when it's sort of old news with folks hearing the same thing all over again from us.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I have
John.
one thing to add, given Lucretia's comment. The one thing I would strongly recommend against going forward is that we ever have another HERF-supported bond issue. We're still paying it after 1997, what's that, 26 years, something like that, and we're still paying it off. And of course, that's coming right off the top of the revenues that are strictly available for the Department for Transportation needs.
It's
So
not
we
a
should never
vote,
do
but
that.
I second that.
I think you get a lot of thirds and fourths on that one. Okay, I think we will have extensive minutes available for the next meeting to look at and see kind of how this fits together and have a little more discussion. And maybe Curtis will be back to us by then to get us thinking a little bit more about what route we might follow. Anyway, thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate it. Let's move on to the next agenda topic. Road repair. Jason Bowley, please come up.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. We are happy to present this month's update for our program. We're using mouse this time. We have started off with some substantially complete projects. We have 4 so far this fiscal year to talk about. We've previously talked about the North Metro Crack Seal and Indian Ridge Mill and Pave projects. Added to that list since the last time that we spoke is the Community del Oeste and Linda Vista ADA curb ramp project, as well as the South Arterial Surface Treatment project. Both of those are now substantially complete. With the South Arterial Surface Treatment project, the only thing remaining on that is final striping, which is expected for next week and the week after. So that'll be all completely wrapped up here and accepted by the end of this month. So talking about some ongoing projects, we have 3 that are currently in construction. So our Heritage Hills ADA curb ramp project is still ongoing. That contractor is working around the Community de la Tierra and Aina intersection currently, and the entire project is expected to be completed prior to the end of this month. So that one is rapidly moving toward completion as well. The South Metro Crack Seal project is also finishing up work. That contractor is working off of Bear Canyon Road right now, which is an area that was moved from another project due to availability of contractors, just so we can get things going. East Metro area crack seal, that is now substantially complete as of the 1st of December, so that'll get moved over to that other slide shortly as well. This one, so some specific projects to here. We've been mentioning Northeast one past couple times, so we'll go through it just briefly here. Our Northeast Mill and Pave project has been awarded to Borderland Construction. The low bid for this was $1.163 million. This includes Reddington Road as well as Bowes Road up on the northeast side of the region. The contractor is expecting to start this project at the end of December, mostly working in January. So that project is going to get kicked off here very shortly. The next project we want to talk about, this is also awarded. This is as you can see, this is a combined capital improvement project as well as pavement repair project. So we've got two projects in one here, pretty much. This is our Sarita Mountain Road, two-way left turn lane plus our mill and pave. This also includes milling and paving on Hilltop Road out on the southwest side. The engineer's estimate for this was 3.5 to 4.5 million, and the low bid was 2.88, awarded to ISX Construction. There are 10.18 miles of arterial collector road on this project for mill and pave, so it's a fairly substantial project. The contractor is expecting to start in late January with this work. The capital improvement projects, just some highlights on what's going on there. So this is an addition of a two-way left turn lane from Viking to Hilltop with paved shoulder in that area and some areas of header walls through some low water crossings as well. This pavement project and the CIP project, packaging them together is one of the things that has been kind of planned for a little bit now as we've been going through, so we can get some better bid numbers, which you can see we got much better bid numbers than if we had tried packaging these as two different projects. Something of note, so the pavement pres project and the capital project are from two different funding that's going. So the pavement pres project does not, so one the that's going towards, well, pavement pres program. So I wanted to project to talk about. This is our Costa Lobes and Catalina Mill and Pave project. The low bid on this project went to Southern Arizona Paving. The engineer's estimate was $3 million to $4 million. The low bid was $3.137 million. There's 1.38 miles of local roads and 8.01 miles of arterial collector. Some roads, some highlights in this. This is Overton Road. This is Camino de Oeste, Golder Ranch Road, and a piece of La Cholla Boulevard as well, along with a subdivision up off of the Hardy area. My brain just completely disappeared. This is also a good project to highlight. So on Overton Road, there's a low water crossing of the CDO wash that we are going to do a concrete low water crossing there in conjunction with our maintenance and operations group. So this is also kind of a combined project. Bear with me. Words are not great today. Our next project to talk about, Southwest Mill and Pave. This has also been awarded to Tucson Asphalt. The engineer's estimate for this is $1.3 to $1.6 million. The low bid was $1.299. There are 4.57 miles of arterial collector on this package. This does include part of Bop Road, part of Bilby Road, and part of Valhalla Road on the southwest side of town. This is expected to start in February, so this project also getting ready to get kicked off here very shortly. So talking about some more upcoming projects, so this is our Pitcher Rocks Northwest Area Surface Treatment Package. This is advertised currently. The bid opening for this is this coming Thursday, so we'll have a contractor at that point. The engineer's estimate for it is $1.45 to $1.65 million. Some highlights of this is including Pitcher Rocks Road, Manville Road, and Rudisill Road, as well as a couple subdivisions off El Tiro. There are 3.58 miles of local roads getting treatment, as well as 8.58 miles of arterial collector getting treatment. And these are generally like fog seals, micro seals, that sort of thing. Similarly, our central and southwest surface treatment is in our package preparation stage. I skipped, my slides are out of order. Sorry about that. Gilbert's just throwing me for a loop. We're having fun. There we go. So this is also a similar to that last package. So fog seals, micro seals, and stuff like that. This is getting ready for advertisement. We expect to advertise it in early January. The engineer's estimate is $400,000 to $750,000. There are 2.24 miles of local road and 6.99 miles of arterial collector. This includes Irvington Road as well as Aerospace Parkway, and then some local roads off of Contractors Way area. Getting to another paving project, our Linda Vista Terrace Mill and Pave. We mentioned earlier the curb ramp project that just completed in that area just about a month or so ago. This is the follow-up project to that, our paving project for it. This is in our package preparation stage. The engineer's estimate is $450,000 to $650,000. We expect to advertise this in early January as well, with a completion date expected the middle of June. And so this does include the Linda Vista Terrace subdivision as well as a portion of Linda Vista Boulevard to the east of Shannon. So that was a lot. We went through quickly on a lot of it. You can see kind of the program status by the dollars. That light blue column there on the top is the complete column, so it is continuing to grow this fiscal year. We have that in construction column there in orange. A lot of that gray awarded will be moving to that in construction here within the next few weeks, as well as the yellow for the advertised, and then the other quarter of the pie chart there in our preparation stage, getting ready to get advertised here very shortly. Exciting to say, all of our crack seal projects as well as our curb ramp projects should be complete prior to the end of this month. So that is great news on the progress of this year's program. With that, I'll remind everyone you can view the status of all the roads selected for this year as well as previous years on our road repair and preservation project map. You can see the hyperlink there below. And with that, I will open to any questions.
Let's, John Winchester first.
Mr. Borley, the bids that you have secured
Yeah.
are all on the really low end. Is that due to construction costs coming down, or you guys are just really good at determining?
I would love to take credit. I'll take credit if you're giving it. Some of it is we've seen a lot of competition in the region this year, and so that's keeping a lot of contractors very hungry for work and driving those prices a little lower. Whether that continues or not, it's hard to say. A lot of it's dependent this year on what other jurisdictions are doing, because we have a much smaller program this year, only 20 million total. So it's really dependent on the contractors looking for work right now. And if other jurisdictions start putting out a lot of work, those prices are probably going to start creeping back up toward the top end of the engineer's estimates again. But so far, so good this year.
Thank you.
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I think my question kind of piggybacked off of, what's your name?
John.
John's. So, yeah, a couple of years ago, the height of inflation, there was about $30 per square yard for mill and pave.
Yeah.
Then it's crept back down to about 20 million. Where is the average sitting at now?
So our average.
With the competition that.
Yeah, so we are back down to about $21 to $22 a square yard for mill and pave. So we're not back down where we were 2 or 3 years ago, where we were at 14, 15, right. But we're significantly lower than we were just even a year or so ago, where we were up $28, $29.
Okay, and second question, are you projecting enough because of the bids that come in, and they seem to be a little bit lower, to have any kind of a surplus to the 20 million that hasn't been addressed yet? And are you dusting off your plans to see who's next in the
we are starting to dust off the old documents now, and that's an exciting thing to say. Is at this point in the year, it does look like we may have extra money that would then go to whoever's up next on the list.
Sure.
So
okay,
yeah, we are evaluating that currently.
That's great. Any other questions? Jason, thank you for the really excellent presentation. We appreciate it. And we don't know if you skipped something, believe me. It's no problem.
Yeah, but I know, so I can't do that to you.
Well, don't tell anybody. Okay. Onward to RTA next. Director Skinner, please.
Good afternoon again. So, if you guys remember last month when I gave the update on RTA Next, I said we were going to have a very busy month ahead of us before this meeting, and that proved accurate. So last week there were a total of about 13 hours of public meetings related to RTA Next. There was a 5-hour Citizens Advisory Committee meeting on December 4th, a 4-hour Technical Management Committee meeting on December 6th, and then including the Regional Council and RTA Board meeting, another 4-hour meeting on December 7th. A lot of discussion, so I will keep it brief and not keep you, really give them many hours of, and I will really give the summary of what was discussed at RTA Board. The deadline had been given that a plan should be submitted to the RTA Board at their December 7th meeting. At the Monday CAC meeting, they narrowed it down. They were looking at 4 different options. A lot of similarities between the 4 options. They narrowed it to 2 options, one that they called option 4.2, one that they called option 5.1. And each of those options include a named roadway corridor category, an allowance for deferred projects, those 4 projects that are moving from RTA 1 that we're currently in to a proposed RTA Next. They both include a transit category, a safety category, active transportation, environmental, some administrative costs. So one of the big differences between these two is contingency amount. And so there was a lot of discussion, and I think it's important to share with you what came out from those discussions. So what had been carried as a contingency of about $100 million originally was recommended. It was really maybe more accurately split into 2 types of contingency. The first being a necessary overlap contingency. So the RTA Board right now is looking at a spring 2025 election. And what that means is that it'll cut off part of the collection period from RTA 1. And so there's a bit of contingency or extra money that will be required to fund that overlap. Those projects that would have been funded in those last few months of RTA 1 will still need funding from an RTA Next. So that we're kind of considering an overlap contingency. And then there's the second type of contingency that with changes in the economic contingency. Those things, the changes in the economy that we couldn't have anticipated. That's one of the big effects on our current plan is that Great Recession, and then compounded by the huge inflation of the past couple of years. It's just those 2 things couldn't really be compensated with this structure. And although the RTA Board is moving forward with the pessimistic economic outlook for revenues, this was just an added contingency on top of that. So that's one of the main differences between what the option 4.2 and the 5.1 that the CAC looked at. Last Wednesday, that Technical Management Committee did have discussion of those 2 options. At the end of that meeting, it was proposed not to recommend either of the take either specific option to the board because there really wasn't a full consensus, and it was fair that the board kind of see where we are. So the board did have a long discussion about what we should do, what are the next steps. And they did not have a plan to approve, so they didn't approve a plan. But what they did is there was a motion that was approved by the entire board, and it really outlines what those next steps will be leading up into their January 25th RTA board meeting. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you because I think that's a little easier, and then I will probably turn it over to John then to have any further words because he was in most of these meetings as well. But the motion as approved by RTA Board was to direct the Technical Management Committee to, first beginning with those options 4.2 and 5.1, continue to refine a plan for the RTA Board consideration at their January 2024 meeting, to receive a presentation from the Citizens Advisory Committee informal working group on their proposed categorical and sub-element framework, to request written input from all jurisdictions, both confirming priority named corridor projects and identifying named safety and active transportation projects, to incorporate identified named corridor safety and active transportation projects, and then finally to ensure geographic distribution of the benefits throughout the region and within each jurisdiction. So that sounds like a huge undertaking, but most of that work really has gotten almost all the way to the finish line. We have corridors identified. It's really just that final tweaking of the project list. As we've talked about many times before, the Pima County has 6 projects still in that named corridor list. The deferred projects will remain unchanged regardless of how we move forward. Transit, so I mentioned that presentation by the CAC informal working group. What that working group did is for those main categories like transit, safety, active transportation, they've broken it down into subcategories. So you really get a more refined look at where the investment may be in these categories, and that will provide hopefully a lot of the specificity that is wanted for this plan. And so those are all the activities that will be happening in the next month. Of course, the RTA board will be meeting after our next CAC meeting, so we'll probably know the outcome of this come February. But I, again, will turn it over to John Bernal, who is on the Technical Management Committee, for additional comments.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I think Catherine summarized it very well. Just a couple of things to remember. The board had originally set a December deadline for a plan, and obviously that wasn't met. But at least the idea is to allow both the Citizen Advisory Committee and the Technical Management Committee to try and work together to generate one plan out of the 2 that are now sitting there as the more viable options. The only other comment is, of course, it may not be as simple a lift as it might sound to compromise those 2 plans, and I only say that because there's still quite a debate about how much should be devoted to transit out of this upcoming plan. Right now, you're looking at about 50% of the expected revenue to go towards corridor-specific projects, and another 25 to 30% to go towards transit. Some folks on the Citizen Committee in particular think that's probably a way overinvestment in transit. Others think it's an underinvestment. So I think there's still some work to be done to reach that compromise, but the hope is that there'll be a plan presented to the board in January, as Catherine has said.
Okay, any
Open it up for questions, yeah.
Any questions?
And by the way, there was another Technical Management Committee meeting scheduled for tomorrow that was subsequently canceled. And I don't know, I understand it might have been a lack of a quorum, but nonetheless, there was an attempt to keep this going quickly, and it's not going to happen this month, I'm afraid.
Very good. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you, Director Skinner, and John, for your points also. Thank you. Okay, the next item is a bylaw update. The purpose of this amendment, and the committee can amend their bylaws under authority from the board. We would take a sentence out, see if I can read it here. Basically, any individual member is limited to attending 3 meetings via telephone means in each year of the member's term. What we found during the pandemic and subsequently is people sometimes need to attend and they participate anyway, and it's worked fine. So limiting our appointed members to just 3 conference calls didn't seem appropriate to us. So we would strike out this sentence. So we only have 7 people here today. It takes a 2/3 majority, so we're going to bring this up at the next meeting where we hope to have 9 people. So that one is tabled for now. Let's go to the next one. These will be nominations for chair and vice chair. The chair and vice chair of this committee serve 2-year terms, and then a new chair and vice chair are elected. And as Charlene knows, you get to participate as chair on occasion when the chair is not available. She's been the vice chair over the last 2 years. So it's time for us to put nominations out there, and next month we'll actually vote on them. So I'm opening the floor up for nominations for the chair positions for the committee.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Tom Beresny for vice chair.
Okay, we have a nomination for vice chair. That's good. You're next, but let's go back. That's okay. You're doing good. I mean, you got 50% of it solved here. Do we have a nomination for chair of the committee?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Charlene Robinson as the chair.
Okay, excellent. So we have 2 nominations. We can have more nominations at the next meeting, but we will have a vote in the next meeting also. So that settles that part of the agenda, unless there's somebody else who wants to nominate somebody right now. Okay, then we'll move on to the next topic, which is call to the audience. And we have plenty of calls to the audience today, so I'm going to ask, because of that, I'm going to ask Gabriel to, I'm going to ask the people to limit their comments to 3 to 4 minutes. So at 3 minutes, Gabriel will raise his hand. At 3.5 minutes, raise your hand, Gabriel, and then at 4, so you just kind of get a heads up that you're kind of at your time limit. So that'll be fair and yet nice for everybody. So let's clock through these. Daphne Hope. Is Daphne with us? Come on up to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I live in the northeast area, Agua Caliente community, but I'm here today to ask that priority be given to repaving a section of the Mount Lemmon Highway as a safety issue. Specifically, that a mill and pave on the downhill sections of the Mount Lemmon Highway from about milepost 3 to just above Babadoag Vista, and then from the end of the previous mill and pave to down below Babadoag for a total of about 1.4 lane miles of work. About 2 years ago, Pima County undertook a mill and pave on a section of the highway on the downhill section in the vicinity of the Babadoag Lookout. And I have to say that the pavement is held up very, very well. It's in excellent condition, so whatever contractor you had for that, hire them again. The section immediately above and immediately below is in very bad condition. It's rutted, it's got potholes, and it's very, very hazardous for cyclists. As you know, Mount Lemmon Highway is a very key destination for many cyclists coming to town, particularly in the winter, but also for all of the local cycling groups here. Traffic safety, highway safety is a key factor, I think, in any transportation department, and right now it is a hazardous situation for cyclists. I would also like to mention that I know that the recent Arizona Department of Transportation Vulnerable Road Users Safety Assessment Survey identified equitable roadway maintenance. It's one of the factors identified by user groups that were attending the various meetings. To me, equitable road maintenance and equitable transportation issues means that the impact on all of the road users is the same. The condition of the road on Mount Lemmon Highway right now is disproportionate in its impact on cyclists, and this represents a safety hazard. So, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And having just been up to Mount Lemmon, I know what you're talking about. So thank you for stepping forward. We'll be developing a response to your input to let you know where things would be. Okay, the next person is Doug Deck. Is Doug here, please? Come on up.
Hello there, committee. Thank you very much for the moment to chat. I live in the 10,000 block of East Kleinedale Road on the far northeast side of town. Kleinedale in that neighborhood is the one east-west road that is south of Prince and north of Fort Lowell. It runs about a half a mile starting at Houghton, goes to Bonanza. My mailbox is 880 feet from Bonanza, and in that stretch of road, there are approximately 720 potholes and or areas where there's future potholes because the pavement is missing and you can see the dirt, below it. It's just not washed out yet. So it's a good, maybe a rain or two from being another pothole. So pretty bad section. It's not the worst section, but it's pretty bad. The other direction down towards Houghton is also bad. There's areas where the water runs across the road and has washed it out. And then we have trees that overhang. And in those areas, the road is so bad that we have to treat them kind of like one-lane bridges. You know, we have to wait to take turns. That neighborhood gets a lot of dog walking, a lot of neighbors out walking, some of them in wheelchairs, which is really interesting to watch, but it's pretty dangerous. I don't know when the road was built. My house was built in '63. The road appears to be original, but it's been fixed, you know, possibly hundreds of times. Every year or so they come and they patch the road a little bit. A truck comes in and they dump some asphalt and then you have a big asphalt lump. And then you have lump after lump. And after about 60 years of lumps, that and the chuck holes made this a pretty dangerous place. A year ago, adjacent neighborhoods, we were really excited because there were trucks everywhere and they were ripping up roads and repaving roads, and it was like, man, finally our time has come. And then all the trucks left, and Kleindale, Bonanza, Tomahawk, arguably 3 of the worst roads out there, weren't touched. So all we're asking really, and I totally understand the challenges of transportation in our community. I too am a lifelong citizen, and I know it's not easy, but would love to see our road and our neighborhood kind of elevated to the level of the adjacent neighborhoods before somebody gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and for stepping forward. Be getting back to you with a response as to what would be possible moving forward. Okay, and we have Asia Deck. Is Asia here?
I'm here, and he spoke.
Okay, very good. We would have given him 8 minutes if we'd known. Okay. Moving right along. Oh, I had Asia here twice. I mean, that'd have been a lot. Okay. Lisa Zamet, is Lisa here? Yeah. Come on up, Lisa.
I have a question about, because I don't know too much about roads, but I'm talking about Kleindale Road also. I live on that. And could you tell me, like, what is the life expectancy of a road? Once it's put in, brand new, and it's residential, do you know, like, what the life how long would it last?
I'm going to turn to Jason
Basically.
Bowley for that. He's probably pretty equipped to answer that question.
The quick answer is it just depends on the road.
Give us a range, then.
Anywhere probably from 15 to upwards of 35 years, depending on
Okay.
the road and there's environmental factors around the road.
It's a residential road, but a lot of people use it, and I believe that road was put in brand new in '95. So, it's been a while. But anyway, I'm just one person. I have an electric wheelchair, and recently it just started making a lot of noises, and it was leaking oil. And so I called the company that I got it from, and they came out and they said, "Are you taking this off-road?" And I said, "No, I'm just taking it down Kleindale to get to better roads." It's the highlight of my life, to get out, take my dog. I can't walk long distances, so I use my chair. I can talk to my neighbors, get some sunshine, fresh air, but it is just tearing my electric wheelchair up. It's going to cost me over $400, just my 20% of my insurance just for that repair. So I'm just trying to say that road is bad. It's really bad, and it needs a lot of work. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
And thank you for coming forward. That's what
You
we're here
bet.
for. Okay, is Sally Gunderman here? Sally, come on up to the microphone. Glad you're in the season spirit, too, with your outfit.
Well, welcome. I'm glad to be here, okay? I have talked to you for 3 years. I have called about our road. And I want to compliment you all because they answer the phone right away. and it's overwhelming, and I always say, thank you for talking to me. And then about 2 years ago, I called so many times that you actually sent me a letter saying, we can't do Kleindale Road this year, but we'll think about it next year. I thought that was so wonderful. But now I'm really upset because these are my neighbors and it's terrible. And anyway, I have a little sports car and I broke my hip last year. I didn't fall. They don't know what happened. I think it was riding on Kleindale, bumpity, 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 bumpity. And 1 year I called in and I said, I counted 1,000 potholes. And I moved there in '96 and I think it was just put in. I don't think the road was done right at the beginning. It's been falling apart for a long time. And I have a bed and breakfast, okay? And so I've had it for 27 years. I have people from all over the country, all over the world. And they say, what is wrong with your roads? And I think if you don't do something now, and I will, if you need money, I'll go out and sell some lemonade if you need it. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. And our road is not too big, but I don't know. Is it going to make any difference that we're here? I don't know. But anyway, please consider putting us on that list, okay? I don't want to come here next year, okay? Okay. Thank you, thank you.
Well, we appreciate your coming forward. It's partially how we keep the beat of the community, and that's what we're here for. We'll get a response to you. It's tough, and that's why you gathered from early part of the meeting. That's why we're looking at different revenue options, because you're just tight on money to do what we need to do. Okay, moving right along. Thank you, Sally. Oh, and she sent pictures, too.
I sent pictures. I want you to see them.
Yeah, I'm going to pass these down to committee members. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if we can project them or not. You would have had to have sent them ahead of time, so. Yeah. Yeah, you can see what you're saying in the pictures, very true. So again, with our limited resources, we're juggling where to put the money, so it's tough. Anyway, let's see. Is there a Matthew Rectistar here? Matthew, come on up. We weren't going to overlook you, believe me.
That's all right. So I feel a little overaddressed. I was actually, a student of mine was defending their thesis, so I wasn't trying to dress up for y'all. But anyways, I was here probably 9 or 10 months ago to try to get our roads on the 2022-23 year to get repaved. And basically what I was told is our roads were bad. They're just not bad enough. I think the PCI, that worst one we had was like a 39. I think you were paving 35, 36 is what I was told. So I understand our roads weren't bad enough. And I became president of the HOA, not by choice. They just said, you got to do it. I said, fine. My wife pushed me onto the board. And they said, you have to get our roads repaved. They're just horrible. It was the number one concern of the residents in my community. And I said, it's bad, it's just not bad enough. They said, well, it's dangerous. I said, okay, well then I reached out to the community. I said, give me all the incidents where people have been injured because of the roads. And within 2 days, I got 10 responses. And there's only 67 homes in the community. So I was like, okay, this is not good. And it's not just the surface of a road. There's cracks, like this is one of the cracks, like a pothole, 3 inches wide, so it's 100 feet long. Like, and there are pothole that, and it's gotten crack is over 1 year, just maybe from the rain from last year, because we had record rain. I think it just kind of dug out a lot of those little potholes, a lot of those surface cracks, and just made them a lot bigger. So it's gotten bad. So like I said, I reached out to some of the residents. I said, give me a list of things that I can take to the committee and say to prove that this road is dangerous. A couple of them, I'll just read a few for you. One of them, and I should mention that in the last couple of years, we've had a lot of families move into the community, so there's a lot more children playing. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that these incidents have kind of had an uptick. But a 3-year-old girl was riding her scooter to the mailbox off Castle Valley Way. While crossing the road, her wheels got caught in a crack and she flipped over her scooter. She scraped herself on the road. A 4-year-old girl was riding a scooter on Weeping Rock. While going up from the sidewalk to the road, her tires got caught in the crack due to separation. There's a pretty big separation around the road to the curb throughout the subdevelopment. She also fell, scraped her knees, and had scratches. A 4-year-old girl was riding her scooter on Castle Valley Way. She struck what happened to be a large crack in the pavement. She flipped over her scooter, and she said through tears, "I never want to ride my scooter again. This street is dumb." I know this because it was my daughter for that one. So she keeps me coming. She's like, "You have to get the roads repaved so we can use them." An elderly woman tripped on a crack going to the mailbox on Elk Creek Road. She sustained minor injuries, and I thought that was kind of dangerous. It's a small community. A lot of people do use the roads because the mailboxes you have to walk to, and so at night, I mean, you saw those cracks. They're hazards, especially to elderly people who's may not recover from those types of injuries. And another one, a woman was riding her bike coming off of Big Springs Road that comes off of Sunrise. Her tires on her bike got caught in one of those cracks, which were filled with a lot of gravel. She slipped out and sustained minor injuries as well. So I had about 10. Those were just 10 I included in the email. There's more, and I imagine there's going to continue to be more. So if we can't hopefully do something, I understand that it's hard managing all these priorities. There's a lot of roads that need repairing.
Sorry to interject, reached your 3
Okay,
minute
the last thing I have to say is that, hopefully we can get on I think it's about 0.6 miles of road in our whole subdevelopment. Just based on the numbers that you were given, I would guess that's probably would cost between $200,000 and $250,000 if I had to guess. But like I said, I know it's a difficult decision to decide what gets on, but hopefully we can be considered pretty soon so we don't have injuries. There's some disgruntled homeowners that are wanting to take legal action. I was like, just relax a little. We'll figure something out. Thank you for your time. I don't want to take too much more, but I appreciate y'all. It's a hard job.
Thank you, Matthew, for stepping forward. I appreciate everybody's patience in the audience today with all the business we had to get through. And we hear you, and that's what we're here for, and we'll get responses out to you. Again, you've seen we're operating under limited resources. It makes it really tough what roads can be done. Gabriel, was there any other individual who stepped forward wanting to address? No? Nobody else? Okay. All right. If there are any future discussion items beyond what we've had on our agenda that the committee worked out, for example, funding, please bring them up so that we can address them. If there's any in the meeting, I can hear them now. Otherwise, you have to, I was going to say let Annabelle know, but I'm not sure. Let Gabriel know, I guess, at this point. If you have something that needs to be discussed and brought up on the agenda. Otherwise, the next meeting is January 23rd, same time, same station, location, etc. With that, I call for a motion to adjourn.
Chair Verber, can I just share, in terms of emails, if you have additional items, you'll see on the agenda that we have a general email address that we've set up for the committee. So please go ahead if you have any agenda items, use that.
Oh, good. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that highlight. Walked right past that one. Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, John, second? Charlene seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you for everybody for coming. Appreciate it. For everybody for coming.